Hello, welcome to this video. We're going to install OpenShift 4.7 on VMware using the UPI or the User Provision Installation methodology. And we're also going to use static IP addresses. So we're going to define the IPs as we build those nodes. And we're going to also, in part 2 of this, we're going to leverage OpenShift GitOps to complete the installation of my lab environment and make it a lot simpler for me to rebuild my lab in the future. There's some huge advantages to using GitOps, and I hope to cover those in part 2 of this. So in part 1, where we're at right now, we're going to go through the install. So let's go ahead and get that started. So first things first, let me just review my lab environment so you're a little bit familiar. I have 3 physical nodes here. They're running ESXi 6.7, and you can see they're just some HP DL360s, DL360s. And so I've got 3 of those, and they have SSDs, NVMe, and some spinning disks on there. They're all identical machines. So this is where we're going to install our 3-node cluster. In the future, my licenses for VMware are going to be expiring soon, so I'm just going to do this install. The next install that I do, it's going to just be a 3-node bare metal install, and then you'll get to see how that works. Okay, so from now on, we'll just continue as is. Let's go ahead and get this installed. First thing is we need to upload our image. I've done that already, but let me show you where to get that, because we're going to need to update our tools as well. So we'll go to cloud.redhat.com. You want to log in there and then go to OpenShift, cluster, create cluster, select data center right here in the middle, and then come down here to vSphere, and we're doing UPI, so I've selected that. I am on a Mac, but I'm using a Bastion host over here, so let's go ahead and select the Linux distribution. Get there, copy that installer. Right there, and then pull secret, I already got mine in my install config. Let's get the new CLI tool, so we'll copy that. All right, and here's the OVA image. Again, I've already uploaded it into vSphere, so that's available. You can download it right here. All right, and once this is done, we'll see I have my 2 zip files here. So let's go ahead and we'll run the installer first. ZXF OpenShift install, and we'll put that in user local bin. And same thing with the client. The client is the OC and the kubectl commands. Like that. All right, so sorry, clear there. All right. So one thing you're not seeing is the HA proxy behind the scenes. So let's just pull that up. So we'll dig API dot my cluster name, which is OpenShift, and my domain redcloud.land. And you'll see that it's resolving to this 115 address, 1.15. And I also have, so at this point, this IP address here then points to all the master nodes. So it can resolve the API, and it port forwards port 6443. All right, so if we do dig apps.openshift.redcloud.land, and here's another, these are the same box, I just have a sub interface here. Just because I like to split out these two. You don't have to do that. You can have everything go to one IP address and just do port forwards. In this case, I've actually defined a separate IP address, 1.16, and this forwards ports 80 and 443 to the worker nodes. If you're going to use infrastructure nodes, then you'll just point that ingress to the infrastructure nodes instead. All right, so this is going to go to my worker nodes. So we're going to have 3 masters and 3 workers by the time this is done. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. In here, I've got my install config file. And this is very similar to what it looks like. It's got my base domain, again, redcloud.land. Because I'm doing UPI, I'm going to specify 0 workers. They're going to be manually installed. We will automate the synchronization of the 3 masters, so there's 3 replicas there. My cluster name is OpenShift, so everything will be like api.openshift.redcloud.land, apps.openshift.redcloud.land, etc. The CIDR network, I'm just taking the default here. You can change this if you want to, and essentially this is the pod networks per node. So every worker node will be allocated well, actually every node will be allocated an address space from this CIDR for the pods to run on. Here's the service network. So the services, point to those pods. So your cluster would then go to the service network, and the service network would distribute the load across your pods. So this is the service CIDR here. And then the default, I believe, is still OpenShift SDN. I've converted this to OVN Kubernetes. I did that ever since I started using OpenShift virtualization because it's what was supported. But I believe the default in the future is going to be OVN Kubernetes. So you can also convert if you got an existing system from OpenShift SDN to OVN Kubernetes. But I'm just doing clean install. I'm just going to go ahead and set that up. And of course, I've got my vSphere settings here. I've already pre-configured this install file, so I'm not going to go through creating the install config file. But it's pretty trivial. The documentation is actually pretty good too, as far as doing this manually if you wanted. So for my vSphere environment, here's my vCenter, the folder that it's in. So Homeland Red Cloud, my administration name and password. This isn't it. I've taken it out. And then of course the data center is Homeland, and the default data store is vSAN. So vSAN data store is going to be the default one for provisioning the thin volumes on. I'm not enabling FIPS. I've already put in my pull secret and my pub key. The SSH public key is synchronized with the nodes, so you can SSH into the nodes as the core user. So it's pretty important that you have that. All right, so that's done. I've already got it stuffed into the Red Cloud directory. You can see right there. So that's the official one. So let's just do OpenShift install create manifest Red Cloud. All right, so now we can go into Red Cloud. There's two subdirectories here. There's manifest and OpenShift. So let's go into the OpenShift directory first. And you'll see that I have these machine files for the master nodes. And I also have the machine file here for the worker node. Now I do like to back up this worker one just so it makes it a little bit easier for me to create a machine set in the future. So I'm just going to move that back. So we'll move 99, OpenShift, cluster, API, worker, machine set, and we'll put that back 2 directories. All right, and then we're going to remove these. So we'll just grab that. And again, because we're going to be creating them manually. There we go. So it should look like this. Okay, and then we'll go back to the manifest directory. And then here, there's really just one thing we need to modify, and that's our scheduler right here. And that's because we have masters schedulable true. This is because in the install config file, we said there were 0 workers. So it's assuming that you want a 3-node cluster or shared worker master nodes, and we don't. We're just going to add those later. So let's go to true, and we'll change that to false. All right, so that's done. We'll back up. Okay, so we'll go back one more directory. There we go. And then we could do OpenShift install, create ignition and this will generate our ignition files we'll need for the VMs. There we go. So now if we go into Red Cloud, we'll see we have this master ignition file and a worker ignition file. So let's go ahead and base 64 encode those. and W0 so there's no wrapping. And we'll do worker, same thing. Great. Okay, now this bootstrap IGN file, we need to copy that to our HTTP server so that we can pull this ignition file into the bootstrap machine. Now this Bastion host is already running that HTTP service for me, so I'm just going to copy this file to its directory. So we'll clear here, we'll just do copy bootstrap. All right, and let's go to bar. All right, so now we're in here. We'll see that the bootstrap file is right there. Right now, because it overwrote the existing file that was in here, it took the permissions. All right, so but typically what you're going to see is read, write, read, and then nothing. So you want to make sure that this is group readable. It is, so I'm going to be able to go ahead and ignore that. If not, you want to chmod that to 644. Just make sure that this is readable. So that would look like that. Okay. All right, so that's done. And let's see, the next thing is, our append file. All right, so this is our append file. And this just points to our HTTP server. So let's go ahead and cat that so you can see what that looks like. All right, so this is the IP address of my Bastion host, and it's just saying that, you know, when it loads, go here to find the bootstrap ignition file. So we're going to use this encoded version of the bootstrap ignition file for the bootstrap machine. The reason is that the amount of data that's in this bootstrap ignition file is too much for VMware's data field. So essentially we're passing in a smaller ignition file that then points to this one so that it can fetch the data as the machine is loading. Okay, so that's why we're using this. All right, so we've got everything we need. Now we just need to build the VMs over here. So let's go ahead and clone this, and we'll do bootstrap first. And put that in my red cloud folder, and we're going to pin that to node 4. And on the vSAN is fine. Now we're going to customize the hardware here. I don't really need to worry about this. I'm going to make sure that that's on the correct network. It is, but I need to go into VM options, go to advanced, edit configuration, and I have 4 fields I want to edit here. And I have that off screen just to make it a little simpler. And the first thing is our disk enable UUID, so it doesn't change the partition info. Say true. And then our encoding type, copy, put that over here, and it's base 64. And then here we're going to have the data from that append file added, so we'll put that in here. Then over here we'll copy append 64, grab this info, right there, put that in here. And then here is where we're going to put in our IP address for the Bastion host. So we'll add that string, and then over here we'll put in our bootstrap value, bootstrap value right there. And essentially this is what that says. There, let me clear this, sorry. Clear. All right, so I've got my IP address of the bootstrap machine. I've got the default gateway and the subnet. And then I have the name of the box, bootstrap.redcloud.land, its IP interface, and of course its name server, the name server that's on there. Okay. So click next. Next. And we are done with that guy, and we can go ahead, when it gets cloned, we'll go ahead and kick it off. Okay, that's done. So let's go ahead and start this guy, power him on. Okay, so we'll clone our masters. Clone, say master 0. And we're putting that in our Red Cloud folder. And I'm going to put that on node 2. We're going to pin that in the NVMe drive. NVMe right there. And again, I'm going to customize the hardware next. And let's say 16, yeah, 816, that should be fine. Hard disk space, it's a master node, but it does run logging services, stuff like that, because I don't have infrastructure nodes. I'm going to say 180 gig here. It should be thin provision, it is. And then we'll go to VM options, just like the last time. And let's add our 4 fields. So the first thing is that enable UUID, true. Our encoding value, base 64. The data, and over here we'll cat red cloud master 64. We'll grab that, put that in here, and then we'll fetch our strings for master 0's IP address. All right, let me make sure, yeah, okay, that's right. That's right, all right. Next, finish. Now, you could clone this once and then go back later and put in the arguments for the IP addresses. I didn't do that. I guess I could have done that. So we're just going to clone out all 3 of them. And once this powers up, we'll go ahead and boot up these other 2 here. There we go. So these are good to go. Turn that one on. Turn master 1 on. Okay, and let's take a look at master 2. We'll just pull that up into a web console. All right, so you can see how that is. All right, and then we'll cat red cloud worker 64 for the worker nodes. All right, looks like it pulled its info already, so that's good. All good signs right here. All right, so we got our IP address, master2.12, so we're good to go there. All right, so let's go ahead and start creating our worker nodes. Worker 0. Put in my Red Cloud land folder. Put this on node 2. It's going to be running on vSAN. Next, customize the hardware. I do have a lot going on here, so we're going to do 8 and then 64 gig of memory, and then disk space, let's say 250 gig. That looks right. And then, actually, yeah, that's fine. And then advanced, 1, 2, 3, 4. And just like the other ones, data or disk, that's true. Coding type, that's base 64. And then our data, it's right here. Copy, paste, and our arguments for the IP address. And copy, paste, okay. Okay. And we'll clone out our next one. Okay, so it should be cloned out. Let's take a look at this. All right, so it's already installed everything and rebooted, and I could tell that because the IP address is missing. So that's good to go. Let me check a couple of things over here. Yep. All right. So I'm looking on my. I have another screen over here that shows the firewall network utilization, and these nodes are pulling down a lot of data right now. So we'll just give it a couple of minutes, and then we'll fire up the worker nodes. Okay, it looks like a majority of the traffic is stopped, so we'll clear the screen here, and let's see, let's export our kube config equals OpenShift red cloud auth kube config, like that, and then we can do OC get nodes. There we go, so the masters are coming up, they're not ready yet. Once those are in a ready state, I'll go ahead and boot up these workers because they're going to take a little while. They're going to ping the masters anyway, so if I did it now, we'd just be waiting. All right. Okay, once those are ready, we'll move on to the workers. All right, that didn't take very long. All right, so those are done. Let's go ahead and boot up these worker nodes. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to jump on this one just to watch the console here. And what you're seeing here is normal. It's just, it's looking for the HTTP, or sorry, the API internal. That does resolve. So for me, the API internal OpenShift.redcloud.land, as you see here, resolves to the same IP address as API. It's just waiting for, the master nodes to respond to it. So they still have some services, although they're in a ready state. There's still some services coming up. And typically it takes a few seconds. So again, we see attempt 15. It'll run until it actually fetches the install. Once that happens, it'll speed right through. So this is normal to see this. There we go. Got to about 44, I think. So this is like attempt 44. So now it's going to go ahead and complete booting up, and then it'll download its packages. Okay, it has the right IP address. And again, off screen, I can see the network traffic is spiked up, so it's definitely downloading its containers. Once it's done, it'll restart. Okay, it looks good. And then we'll come back over here. Let's stop this, and now we gotta approve those certificates. So let's watch OC get CSR grep pending. Maybe I didn't like that. OC get CSR grep pending. All right, we have one. Need to wait for all three of them to come up. There we go. So OC ADM certificate. Approve. And we'll put in these cert IDs or CSR IDs. There we go. And then we should get them again. OC get CSR grep pending. Two of them, three of them. OC ADM certificate approve. And these will get the worker nodes to join our cluster. OC get nodes. There we go. And once those are in a ready state, we'll be able to try to, well, we'll check our operators and then we'll see if we can gain access to the console. All right, so everything looks good there. So clear here, we'll do OC, we'll do watch OC get CO, or the operators. And we can see that all the services are still coming up. So we'll wait for this, and essentially what we're waiting for too is this console to pop in. Once that console pops in, we're able to log in the UI. But everything should come up available, so we'll just wait a few minutes. Okay, everything is up now, so we'll go ahead and clear out of here. And let's get a hold of the kubeadmin password. So that's under auth kubeadmin password. I'll grab that. And I already have a shortcut to the console. That's normal. This is normal because it's a self-signed certificate. I haven't loaded mine yet. It'll happen twice. kubeadmin. And there we go. Shiny new cluster. That didn't take too long. So there we go. We've installed UPI on VMware, 3 masters, 3 workers, and we are ready for step 2, which is, if you stick around, I'm going to run GitOps in the environment. One thing I forgot to do, and I'll go back and do that before I go to step 2, is I'm going to go back to the worker nodes and enable the CPU. Because I'm going to be running virtualization, I forgot this part. So I have to go to the CPU here and enable the hardware assisted virtualization in the guest OS. So I'm going to go through and do that before I start GitOps, because I will be running CNV on these. So you won't see me do that, but just kind of point that out, that's going to be done on the next part. All right, so that's it. Installing 4.7 on VMware UPI with static IP addresses. Thanks a lot.